Hi guys, how are you all today morning? Good morning. Today is 27th August 2023. My name is T.S.V. Raghavan and I live in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India. This is my spiritual vlog on YouTube. Hardan, 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 Haribol, TRSV, Nectar, NECTAR, Nectar. In this particular vlog, in all my previous videos, we have been discussing about the knowledge and information that we have gleaned through the study of spiritual books, scriptures, contemplation on the material universe, and meditation on the spiritual universe. This particular video in this vlog is no exception to that rule. In fact, it is a mere continuation of all that we have been doing in my previous videos. Kindly subscribe to this vlog and press the bell icon so that I may keep reminding you of all my previous and future videos. So let us continue with the discussion of the topic for today's video. In the past few videos, we have been discussing and analyzing a particular term called focus, which plays a great role or part in the psyche, destiny, and karma of every individual human living entity. In other words, focus is very important for every human living entity to achieve something in life. Who is a living entity? Let us first find out that. Initially, all of us individuals were actually spirit sparks which were a part of a spirit whole. This is just like fire sparks being part of a fireplace. Just like sparks fly out of the main fireplace occasionally off and on, similarly, spirit sparks got ejected from the spiritual whole, deliberately, accidentally, advertently, inadvertently, or by default or design. In any case, these spirit sparks which got ejected out of the spirit hole began floating in the space aimlessly, endlessly, and without any purpose in mind. These spirit sparks did not know why they had come out. It was just some accident or complacence on their behalf which made them come out of the spirit hole. However, Even these spirit sparks, which were otherwise unevolved, there was a type of vanity, overconfidence, and complacence. This was because it has been declared that spirit is the superior energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and material is the inferior energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These spirit sparks were puffed up with ego that they belonged to that superior category of energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, they conveniently chose to forget that both the inferior material energy and the superior spiritual energy are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When they were unaware of this, or they had chosen to ignore this, these spirit sparks gradually, slowly, and steadily gravitated towards the material world. It was not deliberate, probably it was also accidental. When the spirit sparks saw the huge material world, they got attracted to it. Once they got attracted to this material world, they began gravitating towards it. Once they did so, one day they got attached to this material world. When these spirit sparks got attached to the material world, instead of remaining a spirit spark anymore, they became what is known as a raw, unevolved spirit soul. Now let us take a detour. Please consider or imagine a shellfish. A shellfish which is in the deep waters of a sea or an ocean keeps its mouth open under the hope that some food particle will automatically fall into that open mouth. This is how the shellfish catches particles of food, then closes its mouth, chews on that food particle, and digests it. However, sometimes what happens is the same shellfish opens its mouth and some foreign particle like sand particle or stone particle or any other thing which is not a food item inadvertently falls into this shellfish's open mouth. When it does, and when the shellfish finds that it is not serving the shellfish's purpose, then the shellfish gets visibly irritated by the touch of that foreign particle with its own soft flesh. To avoid this irritation, the shellfish begins to wrap this particle with its own saliva layer after layer. This the shellfish continues to do till that foreign particle is totally wrapped up. After that, this shellfish keeps its mouth closed because it had done so when that foreign particle fell into it. Someday, Some shellfish hunter catches hold of this shellfish and forcibly opens its mouth to take the flesh out of it for eating purposes. At that time, this shellfish is opened, and then this hunter finds one round particle which is kept inside that shellfish, all wrapped up with its saliva. When this round particle is ejected out or extracted out, and when this hunter examines it, it actually has turned into a pearl. A pearl is an expensive item which is used to make expensive jewelry for the mankind. Thus, a foreign particle which probably did not have any value was wrapped by with the saliva of that shellfish, and that transformed this foreign object into a priceless pearl. Similarly, when this raw, unevolved spiritual soul gets in touch with the material world gets visibly irritated by such intrusion by the spirit soul. To avoid this irritation, the same material world wraps this raw, unevolved spirit soul with four layers of material body. These layers are as follows. The first layer is the causal body of intelligence and logic. The second layer is the astral body of mind, feelings, and emotions. The third body is the etheric body of senses, namely sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. And the fourth layer is the gross body made up of four elements, which are air, fire, water, and earth. When this raw, unevolved soul is wrapped up by these four layers of material body, it gets entrapped into that cocoon, and now it loses its position as a spirit soul, and it becomes a living entity. That is what is called a living entity. This living entity begins an orbit of endless births and deaths in this material world in different species. They begin with the first birth as a cell, then an algae, an amoeba, a weed, grass, shrubs, plants, trees, worms, insects, reptiles, amphibians, birds, bees, and finally human beings. Even among human beings, there are at least 400,000 species of various types of human beings. When this spirit soul gets so entrapped, it goes about its trials and tribulations, pains and pleasures, experiences and maturity in this material world through several births. This makes that a raw spirit soul an evolved one because of all the experiences that it has to gather through these endless births and deaths. This cycle ends only when the living entity finally realizes its true self as a spirit soul and then tries to get liberated from this endless cycle of birth and death and finally gets delivered into the Supreme Personality of Godhead as an evolved spirit soul. This is one process that every living entity has to go through to get evolved. This is just like a raw gold has to take the trial and test of fire to become expensive jewelry. Raw gold does not have any value till it becomes expensive jewelry, and for that it has to go through several tests of fire and tempering so that it becomes perfect and fit to be transformed into expensive, priceless, valuable jewelry. Same is the case with raw spirit souls. When they go through this grind in the material world, they come out as evolved spirit souls. This is one theory that I wanted to discuss with you. But in this process, I also wanted to tell you about something else. There are living entities and living entities. There are a multitude of living entities in this society. Of this 100% living entities, 75% living entities go about their journey through trials and tribulations, even aimlessly vegetating through their births and deaths, doing nothing, creating nothing, and experiencing nothing. This happens to 75% of humanity. Only 25% are chosen to learn from their getting deep into the waters, thrown into those deep waters by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so that they get more tempered and experienced. It is then that this 25% realizes that it is not just an ordinary vegetating living entity, but an eternal servant of God as a spirit soul. When this particular jnanodayam or revelation happens to these living entities, they crave to get some assignment from the Supreme Personality of Godhead to carry through successfully. God selects 20% of such living entities to take over material assignments. Only 5% evolved souls or experienced and matured souls get spiritual assignments. This is a very rare bracket of evolved living entities. We have already talked about several case histories concerning those living entities which had got material assignments. Now, in the past few videos, we have started discussing case histories of those living entities who got spiritual assignments. Spiritual assignments are given to those living entities which are evolved enough to carry them through to the ultimate success and to the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Monks, sannyasis, heretics, saints, rishis, maharishis, evangelist preachers, demigods, godmen, celestial beings, angels, transcendental beings, and beings from other dimensions form part of this spiritual bracket of 5%. Now, today we shall discuss about one such case history and find out how important it is to carry out one spiritual assignment to satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Before coming into the case history, I would like to dwell on that topic called focus. When a person gets a material or a spiritual assignment, he or she should consider himself or herself as a chosen one. In that case, that assignment must become a part and parcel of that living entity so that he or she completes it with perfection. Just like money and genius, assignment is also a very jealous mistress. It brooks no opposition or diversion or distraction from the person who it goes to. If that person becomes complacent or distracted enough to ignore this assignment, it will certainly leave him or her for good till the time that this person sincerely apologizes to that assignment and surrenders himself or herself to that assignment completely. It is here that the term focus comes into picture. A living entity, male or female, has to focus 100% on his or her material or spiritual assignment to complete it to the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As for example, when Acharya Drona in Mahabharata took the Kaurava and Pandava princes to the forest to teach them archery, he showed them a clay pigeon that was hanging on the top of a tree. He told these princes that one by one they should aim and shoot their arrows through the left eye of that clay pigeon. Everyone got ready, but every time one prince came to shoot the arrow, Acharya Drona used to ask, "What do you see here?" That boy inadvertently replied, "I see the pigeon, the branches, and the tree, the other princes, etc." Acharya Drona told them, "Don't shoot, you will not succeed." However, when it came to Arjuna, he asked Arjuna, "What do you see now?" Arjuna aimed the arrow at the bird and said, "I am looking only at the left eye of the clay pigeon." Acharya Drona was satisfied. He asked him to shoot the arrow and Arjuna succeeded. Such is the case with every living entity. You must have 100 focus on 100% focused on your assignment to succeed in shooting the left eye of the bird or to complete that assignment to satisfaction. Now comes the case history. There is one small village in the outskirts of the temple town of Madurai in Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu is in India, in South India. Madurai is a temple town famous for its Madurai Meenakshi Amman temple, and Meenakshi Amman is no other person than the deity who is the consort of Lord Shiva. Now, in this township, which was in the outskirts of Madurai, there lived one person who worked as a court pleader. He belonged to a very orthodox, spiritually inclined, decent, educated family, and he eked out his living as a court pleader. Several of his family members had become monks, saints, rishis, maharishis, etc. during the course of time, which was the 19th century of India, even before many of his ancestors had taken the spiritual path. Now comes the case history of our own protagonist. One day on 30th December 1879, one boy was born in the family of that court pleader. This boy was christened Venkatraman. Now let us stop talking about Venkatraman and talk about the living entity which was born in this family as Venkatraman in this lifetime. It so happened probably this living entity had managed to get a spiritual assignment long back. Like all people or all living entities, this guy also had to start with scratch. Initially, he also went through lots of failures and frustrations while completing that assignment successfully. However, slowly but steadily, he climbed up the ladder of that assignment to such a level that when he was born in this lifetime, he came as a cedar player and got birth in that family which had several monks and saints to its credit over the years and centuries. Now, this Venkatraman was one of those members of that exalted family. Venkatraman was not a very good student. In fact, he spent a lot of his time playing in the fields, swimming, or brawling with his classmates. This guy was a troubled monger for his family. And என்னம்மா